The truth does not knock politely on the front door. Sometimes it kicks the hinges entirely off the frame, shatters the glass, and drags everyone's deeply buried demons out into the unforgiving daylight. Most people do not hate intelligence, light, or spiritual elevation. What they genuinely despise is what your intelligence, your light, and your unbreakable spiritual elevation force them to feel about their own manufactured, stagnant lives. They hate the mirror you hold up simply by existing. Welcome, chosen ones. If you are listening to these words right now, you have likely been sitting in the heavy, disorienting aftermath of a deeply calculated, genuinely disgusting attack. You have watched someone you trusted, someone you helped, or someone you simply existed alongside suddenly drop their mask and attempt to entirely dismantle your character, your spirit, or your livelihood. You are navigating a profound spiritual awakening, enduring the heavy isolation of outgrowing your old environments, and dealing with deeply insecure, highly performative people trying to mimic your light or drag you down to their frequency. It was a vicious, unprovoked ambush designed to break your spirit, humiliate you publicly, and send you crawling back into the shadows where they desperately believe you belong. But here is the overarching, terrifying reality that currently has their minds spinning out of absolute control. They thought this attack would bury you, but they accidentally handed you the exact keys to your own elevation. They expected a tragedy. They melted down over your success and orchestrated a smear campaign to cap your potential. But you did not just simply survive their disgusting, coordinated attack. You alchemized it. You took the exact poison they gleefully poured into your cup, and you drank it down, turning their pure malice into the very fuel that catapulted you into your next level of power. You reversed the dynamic, and now they are watching you from the sidelines, whispering to themselves in absolute panic, realizing they completely miscalculated your spiritual density. Before we dive deep into the absolute core of why they are currently losing their minds and how you turned this disgusting attack into your undeniable power, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, drop a comment with what point hit you hardest, and share this video with someone who needs the reminder. Let us get into it. Let us break down exactly why their attempt to ruin you became the very foundation of your ultimate ascension. Number 1, they never expected you to survive long enough to see their true faces. When this toxic individual launched their smear campaign, their gossip, or their blatant betrayal against you, they were operating under a massive psychological delusion. They assumed that your internal foundation was built the exact same way theirs is built, out of papier-mâché, external validation, and an incredibly fragile ego. They looked at your kindness, your empathy, and your willingness to accommodate others, and they drastically mistook that grace for weakness. But here is the contrast they entirely failed to comprehend. Their entire identity is a borrowed, insecure, performative facade that requires constant applause from the crowd just to stay upright. Your identity is hard-earned, intensely vetted through years of solitary suffering, and deeply aligned with a higher spiritual truth. You have done the agonizing shadow work in the dark. The deep psychology behind their behavior is rooted in projection. They constantly project their own terrifying fragility onto everyone else. They know with absolute certainty that if someone were to attack them the way they just attacked you, they would instantly fold. They would completely unravel and beg for mercy. So, they applied that exact same expectation to you, waiting eagerly for your mental breakdown. It is exactly like someone bringing a single damp match to burn down a solid stone fortress, or frantically stacking flimsy cards on a windy table, fully expecting you to do the same, while you have been quietly and diligently stacking heavy bricks on solid ground for years. To the outside observer, their behavior looks incredibly goofy and frantic. They keep throwing things at you, expecting a massive emotional explosion, and instead, the weapon simply absorbs into your armor. You did not collapse because your peace is not tethered to their completely irrelevant opinion of you. You force them to confront the reality that they never had any real power over your emotional state. They see your calm, but not your resilience. They see the unbothered posture, but they have no concept of the thousands of private internal battles you fought to build that composure. They expected you to succumb to their pressure and fade away, but you survived. You observed the malice in their eyes, and you built a fortress out of the stones they maliciously threw at you. Number 2. You forcefully trigger them to confront the intelligence and alignment they permanently abandoned. When someone goes out of their way to orchestrate a disgusting, unwarranted attack on your character, you must understand the deep psychological torment hiding behind their malice. People who are internally aligned, spiritually fed, and focused on their own growth simply do not have the time, the energy, or the desire to plot on another human being. The imitator or the hater behaves this way because the sheer sight of your authenticity acts as a blinding, unavoidable mirror to their own agonizing stagnation. They are entirely reliant on a social script that you absolutely refuse to follow. You represent the bravery they lacked when they decided to settle for a mediocre, highly performative life. Contrast your purity of intention and unforced evolution with their absolute desperation to control a false narrative. You move through the world operating on genuine connection and divine alignment, while they maneuver through the world like someone wearing flashy jewelry they cannot afford, constantly terrified that someone is going to inspect the diamonds and realize they are cheap glass. The deep psychology of their attack was a preemptive strike, fueled by their own guilt, shame, and intense self-loathing. They inherently feared that your light would eventually expose their darkness, so they tried to extinguish you first. But the profound irony is that in their frantic attempt to convince the world that you are the villain, they handed everyone a magnifying glass to look at their own dirty hands. It is a tragic, highly embarrassing spectacle to witness. They are screaming into the public square, throwing handfuls of mud at your name, entirely oblivious to the fact that you are standing on a balcony high above them, completely clean, while they are entirely covered in their own filth. They see your ascension, but they completely miss the absolute refusal to stoop to their level. They expected you to jump into the mud pit and wrestle with them, validating their chaotic existence. By remaining above it, by continuing to elevate and operate in your genius, you turned their attack into a glaring spotlight on their own toxic pathology. You let their own unhinged attack be the very thing that dismantled their credibility forever, leaving them looking frantically unhinged. Number 3. Your total silence completely dismantled their carefully written dramatic script. You must understand that toxic, highly insecure people do not just want to harm you, they want you to actively participate in the harm. They are amateur scriptwriters. They meticulously draft these dramatic, chaotic narratives in their heads where they play the righteous victim or the powerful victor, and you are explicitly cast as the frantic, hyper-emotional, defensive antagonist. When they launched their attack, they had already written your dialogue. They were waiting for your angry text messages. They were waiting for you to post a vague, emotionally unhinged rant on social media. They were waiting for you to exhaust your spirit, trying to prove your innocence to a crowd of people committed to misunderstanding you. Contrast this deeply performative expectation with your actual response, an immovable, fiercely grounded withdrawal of your energy. You completely refused to read the lines they wrote for you. The deep psychology behind their resulting meltdown is rooted in an intense, suffocating loss of control. When you do not react, you deliberately deprive them of the emotional supply they desperately need to feel powerful. Without your reaction, their attack falls completely flat, leaving them holding the heavy bag of their own malice. It is exactly like a frantic director screaming, "Cut! take it from the top, over and over again on a brightly lit stage. But the lead actor simply walked off the set, drove off the lot, and went to win an Oscar in an entirely different genre. You broke their psychological toy. To the outside world, their behavior begins to look incredibly goofy and unbalanced, because they are still fighting an opponent who gracefully left the ring hours ago. They are shadowboxing with their own demons while aggressively screaming your name. They see the grace of your departure, but not the immense self-restraint it took to walk away instead of utterly destroying them with the truth. They see the silence, but not the heavy, invisible boundary you erected to protect your spirit. You turned their attack into power by proving that your peace cannot be manipulated by their cheap provocations, leaving them stranded on a stage with the curtains wide open to public judgment. Number 4. You effortlessly alchemized their concentrated poison into the ultimate spiritual fuel. People who operate from a place of intense envy and deep insecurity view pain as a strictly destructive force. In their limited, purely earthly world, when you hit someone with a brutal, disgusting attack, that person is supposed to shatter, fold, and shrink into a significantly lesser version of themselves. That is because, for the attacker, any form of discomfort or public exposure leads to an immediate, catastrophic collapse of their fragile ego. Contrast their absolute inability to process pain with your profound, deeply ingrained capacity for spiritual alchemy. You do not just survive betrayal, you metabolize it. You consume the toxicity and use it as raw fuel to completely reinvent your boundaries, your standards, and your intense focus. The deep psychology here reveals their fundamental misunderstanding of exactly who you are. They lack the spiritual depth to comprehend that true chosen ones do not break under pressure, they crystallize. They behaved like a careless, deeply foolish arsonist throwing a match onto what they thought was dry brush, entirely unaware that you are made of solid gold. Their fire did not destroy you. It merely burned away your lingering impurities and left you shining brighter, harder, and infinitely more valuable. It is like putting massive, crushing pressure on a piece of coal, maliciously expecting it to turn to dust, only to step back in pure horror as it transforms into a flawless, unbreakable diamond right before their eyes. They look incredibly goofy and deeply confused because their absolute best effort to ruin you became the exact reason you leveled up. You used their disgusting behavior as a masterclass in what you will never tolerate again. They see the undeniable elevation, but they are completely blind to the evolution. They see the success, but not the agonizing midnight realizations where you had to grieve the illusion of who you thought they were. You turned their attack into sheer power because it forced you to stop playing small to accommodate their insecurities. Their desperate attempt to push you into the dirt accidentally planted you in the exact nutrient-rich soil you needed to grow into an absolute giant in your field. Number 5. They accidentally triggered the immediate removal of all your lingering dead weight. In the immediate, disorienting aftermath of a deeply calculated, disgusting attack, the natural human response is grief. You mourn the sudden loss of friendships. You mourn the brutal betrayal of trust, and you look at the sudden emptiness in your social circle with a heavy heart. But this is where the brilliant alchemy of the chosen one kicks in. You soon realize that the people who walked away, the cowardly bystanders who believed the lies, and the fake friends who silently watched you bleed without offering a hand, were never actually in your corner to begin with. The deep psychology of the imitator and their mobilized flying monkeys is that they function entirely on a low vibrational frequency of convenience. They were only around you to extract your light, your resources, or your proximity to success. By launching this attack, the toxic individual genuinely thought they were successfully isolating you and punishing you. Contrast your initial feeling of abandonment with the ultimate glorious realization of spiritual liberation. You were trying to carry dead weight into a completely new season, and the universe used your enemy to viciously cut the ropes. They did the heavy, agonizing lifting of removing every single fake, performative, parasitic entity from your immediate orbit. It is exactly like a terrifying, raging forest fire that looks like absolute destruction from a distance. But once the thick smoke clears, you realize that the fire only burned away the dead wood, the invasive weeds, and the toxic underbrush, leaving the massive, deeply rooted oak trees completely untouched and ready to receive more sunlight than ever before. From the outside, the attacker looks profoundly goofy. They are publicly celebrating the fact that they got the trash to leave your house, entirely unaware that you were planning on taking it to the curb anyway. They see the empty seats at your table, but not the immense, profound relief of no longer having to feed ungrateful, parasitic mouths. You turned their attack into unimaginable power because they accidentally purified your inner circle, ensuring that the only people left standing beside you in your next chapter of massive success are those who are genuinely, undeniably, and fiercely loyal. Number 6. You ruthlessly exposed the extreme fragility of their external validation matrix. The people who obsessively plotted on you and attempted to execute this disgusting attack share one glaring, pathetic commonality. They do not actually exist as independent, sovereign individuals. Their entire personality, their fabricated confidence, and their sense of reality are completely outsourced to the fleeting opinions of the crowd. They are absolutely terrified of standing alone. When they attacked you, they had to frantically recruit a mob. They had to spin a complex web of half-truths and forcefully present it to an audience because their malice is too cowardly to stand on its own 2 feet. Contrast their desperate need for an audience with your profound, unshakable internal alignment. You do not need a committee to tell you that you are a good person. You do not need a panel of easily manipulated judges to validate your reality. The deep psychology of the attacker reveals a deep-seated spiritual bankruptcy. They are essentially hollow avatars driven by a desperate, insatiable need for the crowd's applause. They hate you because you possess an internal compass that always points to true north, regardless of who is watching or clapping. They attacked you to try and steal your footing, hoping that if they could isolate you from the crowd, you would crumble just like they inevitably would. It is metaphorically identical to a fragile, needy parasite that genuinely believes it is powerful, entirely forgetting that the moment it is detached from the host, it immediately withers and dies. You are a self-sustaining ecosystem. They are a virus that needs a host to survive. When you didn't collapse under the heavy weight of their mobilized mob, you made them look incredibly weak. The very people they recruited to attack you are slowly starting to look at them sideways, noticing the frantic, obsessive energy they carry. They see your independence, but not the isolation it took to forge it. They see the strength, but not the solitary refinement required to access it. You turned this attack into sheer power by proving that while they need an entire army just to feel brave, you can stand entirely alone in the truth and still be the most dangerous, powerful person in the room. Number 7. Their desperate attack became the ultimate glaring confession of their own internal rot. When insecure, performative people go out of their way to orchestrate a smear campaign or to bring you down, they mistakenly believe they are telling the world something awful about you. But you, as a highly tuned psychological observer, know the absolute truth. Every single accusation is a confession, and every unprovoked attack is an autobiography. They did not attack you because of anything you did. They attacked you because of what your relentless forward momentum represents. You represent movement, evolution, and an unrelenting commitment to growth. They represent the stagnant, decaying swamp water of past glories and comfortable lies. Contrast your clean, forward-moving trajectory with their obsessive, backward-looking malice. Your authentic, continuous evolution shines a harsh, unforgiving light on the fact that they have not grown in years. The deep psychological truth is that your success and your peace severely triggered their shame. They are terrified of stagnation, yet they are completely paralyzed by the internal work required to change. So, instead of doing the brutal work to elevate themselves, they tried to drag you back down to the dark basement where they live. But look at the sheer, goofy tragedy of their actions. It is metaphorically like a person entirely covered in thick, stinking mud, running up to someone in a pristine white suit, desperately trying to smear dirt on them. Even if they manage to get a tiny smudge on your sleeve, everyone looking at the situation can clearly see who exactly lives in the mud. By trying to expose your alleged flaws, they only exposed the violent jealousy rotting their own hearts. You forced them to show their entire hand. They revealed the depth of their obsession with you, laying bare the pathetic reality that they spend their waking hours studying the person they claim to despise. They accidentally gave you the greatest compliment a hater can ever give, their undivided, frantic and miserable attention. They see your unbothered march forward, but not the forgiveness you had to muster to keep walking. They are exposing their own demons to the public, entirely oblivious to the fact that you are simply standing there, untouched, letting them destroy their own reputation. Number 8. You triggered their deepest, most unspeakable fear of their own permanent stagnation. When insecure, performative people lash out and try to tear down a chosen one, they are usually operating under the subconscious, deeply flawed belief that destroying you will somehow magically fix them. They feel stuck, uninspired, and deeply unhappy with the trajectory of their own lives. Instead of doing the agonizing internal work required to heal and progress, they look at your upward momentum with intense resentment. They think that if they can just pause your movie, if they can just forcefully derail your train, it will magically make them feel better about being parked in the exact same miserable spot for the last decade. Contrast your relentless, inevitable forward movement with their absolute, paralyzing stagnation. Even when deeply wounded by their disgusting attack, you continued to walk. You limped if you had to, but you never stopped moving toward your purpose. The deep psychology of their subsequent meltdown is a raw, terrifying encounter with reality. They realize that attacking you did not cure their depression. Sabotaging you did not put money in their bank account. Smearing your good name did not fix their broken relationships. It is exactly like a deeply bitter sailor maliciously anchoring themselves to a heavy, rotting, sinking ship, violently cheering as they try to poke holes in your tiny wooden raft, only to suddenly realize that your raft is successfully floating away toward a beautiful sunlit horizon, while the cold, dark water is rapidly rising around their own neck. They are permanently trapped at the exact scene of the crime, entirely defined by what they did to you, while you are entirely defined by where you are going next. They look utterly tragic. They are constantly checking your social media, subtly asking about you, and obsessing over your progress, because your life is the only interesting thing happening in their stagnant reality. They see the momentum, but they cannot fathom the discipline. They see the distance you covered, but not the daily choice to keep walking away from the past. You turned their attack into absolute power by letting your sheer, undeniable progress act as the ultimate, inescapable mirror to their pathetic lack of evolution. Number 9. They unknowingly handed you the exact resistance required to build your ultimate spiritual fortitude. In their absolute arrogance, they genuinely believed their attack would act as a heavy boulder that would permanently crush your spirit and bury you alive. They lacked the spiritual intelligence to understand that you operate under a completely different set of universal laws. In the realm of the Chosen One, resistance is not a death sentence, it is a gymnasium. You utilized their heavy, suffocating hatred as the exact gravity needed to build your psychological muscle. Contrast their exhausting, stagnant existence with your authentic, continuous growth. While they expend all their daily energy trying to tear down your house, their own house is actively rotting from the foundation up. The deep psychology of the imitator is heavily reliant on pulling others down, because the concept of climbing up on their own merit is mathematically impossible for them. They fear the hard work of internal evolution. Therefore, they thought that by creating an insurmountable obstacle in your path, you would simply sit down and surrender to the void. It is the metaphorical equivalent of them maliciously trying to drown a fish by throwing it into a deeper, more turbulent ocean. They meant to suffocate you, but they actually just introduced you to a broader, more expansive environment where you could swim freely and grow larger. You torture their insecure minds simply by surviving and thriving. Every day you wake up and continue to focus on your divine mission, you are physically breaking their reality. They cannot comprehend how the very poison they injected into your ecosystem was processed, filtered, and utilized as premium fertilizer for your most abundant season yet. They thought they were the powerful executioner, delivering the final fatal blow to your ego and your dreams. Instead, they were merely the rough whetstone that the universe used to sharpen your blade. This realization reduces their grandiose sense of self to absolute rubble. They see the sharpness, but not the friction. They see the flight, but not the gravity you had to defy. Knowing they helped you fly while they remain stuck on the ground is a psychological torture they will have to live with forever. Number 10. Your unbothered momentum highlights the tragic comedy of their secret obsession. One of the most glaring contrasts between a chosen one and a toxic imitator is exactly where they place their intense focus after a massive conflict. You have completely moved on. You are focusing on your purpose, your healing, your finances, your physical health, and your relationship with the divine. You are diligently tending to your own garden. They, however, are standing in their own dead, barren yard, staring over the fence at you with binoculars. The deep psychological truth is that they simply cannot let you go. Their attack permanently tethered them to your energy because they still desperately need you to fail in order to feel successful. If you succeed after they tried so hard to destroy you, it invalidates their entire existence. Therefore, they become secretly, obsessively invested in your downfall. They are watching your pages from fake accounts. They are constantly asking mutual acquaintances about you. They are over-analyzing your silence, trying to decode a misery that simply does not exist. It is profoundly tragic and deeply pathetic. It is like someone continuing to pay exorbitant rent in a house that has already been demolished. They are emotionally and financially invested in a dynamic that you have completely walked away from. Your profound peace, your calm, your unbothered forward motion is the ultimate psychological warfare, and you do not even have to lift a single finger to wage it. They are fighting ghosts in their own minds. They see the calm, but they do not understand the sheer resilience that birthed it. They see the confidence, but they cannot comprehend the brutal internal battles you already won to achieve it. They are trapped in a purgatory of their own making, continuously punished by the simple, beautiful fact that you are entirely okay without them. By paying them absolutely no mind, you force them to realize that their massive performance had zero impact on your actual reality. You turned their attack into power by rendering their entire existence completely and utterly irrelevant to your bright future. Number 11. You ruthlessly exposed the sheer impotence of their trauma-bonded alliances and flying monkeys. When deeply insecure people realize they cannot defeat you on an individual level, they immediately attempt to unionize their toxicity. They frantically gather a group of equally stagnant, miserable, and easily influenced individuals to form an echo chamber of validation. They needed to convince others to hate you because their own hatred was not strong enough to dent your armor. They rely entirely on borrowed authority, genuinely believing that if enough people agree with a lie, the lie magically transforms into the truth. But a massive crowd of cowards does not make an army. It just makes a very noisy, confused flock of sheep. The contrast here is between your singular, deeply rooted spiritual authority and their desperate, clunky groupthink. You stand in the truth, completely alone if necessary, because the truth does not require a consensus to be valid. Their deep psychology is driven by a profound, suffocating fear of isolation. They surround themselves with yes men and flying monkeys because if they were left alone with their own thoughts for even 5 minutes, the guilt and shame would consume them alive. But look at the sheer impotence of their coalition. It is like a group of paper tigers violently caught in a torrential downpour. They might look slightly intimidating from a distance, but the moment the heavy rains of reality and time hit them, they completely dissolve into mush. You expose the fact that their alliances are not built on loyalty, trust, or mutual respect. They are built entirely on a shared, pathetic hatred of your light, and bonds built in the dark inevitably turn on each other when the light gets too bright. You do not even have to actively dismantle their fake army. You just have to stand still, maintain your alignment, and watch as their borrowed authority entirely collapses under the weight of its own internal rot. They see the isolation you survived, but not the divine company you keep. You turned their attack into power by proving that your sovereign light is infinitely stronger than their collected darkness. Number 12. They are agonizingly realizing that your peace is entirely independent of their presence or validation. When highly toxic, insecure individuals launch an attack or implement a brutal discard, they suffer from a massive delusion of grandeur. They fundamentally believe that they are the absolute center of your universe. They assume that their departure, their betrayal, or their sudden withdrawal of affection will leave a gaping, bleeding hole in your life that you will spend years desperately trying to fill. The deep psychology of this arrogant assumption is rooted in their own terrifying fear of irrelevance. They desperately need you to be devastated by their absence, because your devastation is the only proof they have that they actually mattered. Contrast their inflated ego with your deeply grounded, completely unbothered reality. You do not derive your worth from their proximity. You do not need their permission to be joyful, and you certainly do not need their presence to be peaceful. When the dust settled after their disgusting attack, they waited with bated breath for you to reach out, to complain, to post subliminal messages, or to show any sign that they broke you. Instead, they were met with the devastating realization that your life actually got immensely better the second they left. The air in your home became lighter, your sleep became deeper, your creative energy skyrocketed. It is exactly like someone arrogantly bringing a cheap plastic water gun to a massive open field, aggressively aiming it at the sky and trying to turn off the blazing midday sun. They are squirting tiny drops of water at a celestial body that is millions of miles away, completely unfazed and burning brighter than ever. Their realization that you do not need them is the ultimate psychological death blow to their fragile ego. They look incredibly goofy, standing on the sidelines of your life, realizing they were never the main character. They were barely an extra in a single scene of your origin story. They see the joy, but not the intense detachment. They see the peace, but not the profound emotional hygiene it took to scrub them out of your energy field entirely. Number 13. You inadvertently forced them to face the insurmountable spiritual debt they owe the universe. There is a deeply rooted, immutable law of energetic exchange in the universe that toxic, highly performative people entirely fail to understand. When you maliciously plot against an innocent person, when you actively try to dismantle the life of someone who operates with a pure heart and divine alignment, you are not just making a social error. You are incurring a massive, unpayable spiritual debt. The deep psychology of the attacker is characterized by severe energetic bankruptcy. They do not know how to generate their own light, their own success, or their own peace. Their only method of feeling tall is by trying to chop off the legs of everyone around them. They operate in a karmic loop of constant destruction because they have no capacity for internal creation. Contrast their absolute depletion with your undeniable, overflowing abundance. You generate your own energy. You source your power from a divine wellspring that never runs dry, whereas they are desperately trying to sip from the muddy puddles of other people's manufactured drama. When they launched their attack against you and failed, the universe immediately sent them the bill for the energy they wasted and the malice they weaponized. It is exactly like someone confidently writing massive, exorbitant checks to fund a lavish, performative lifestyle, entirely ignoring the fact that they are operating from a completely empty, overdrawn bank account of the soul. The bounced checks are now aggressively catching up to them. Their life is beginning to stagnate. Their relationships are fraying because the toxic bond they built through hating you is not strong enough to sustain real connection. They look frantic and exhausted because the energetic toll of hating someone who is divinely protected is impossibly heavy. They see your abundance, but not the energetic discipline it takes to maintain it. They see your blessings, but not the profound spiritual protection you earned by keeping your hands clean when you had every right to destroy them. You turned their attack into power simply by allowing the universe to aggressively collect the debt they owe, while you sit back and continue to accumulate absolute spiritual wealth. Number 14. You brought them to the final devastating surrender of your undeniable, divinely protected elevation. There comes a breaking point in every smear campaign, every toxic dynamic, and every disgusting attack leveled against a true chosen one. It is the moment when the imitators, the haters, and the flying monkeys collectively run completely out of ammunition. They have fired every shot. They have told every lie. They have pulled every string. And yet, the absolute impossible has happened. You are still standing. Not only are you standing, but you are standing taller, shining brighter, and operating with more authority than you ever possessed before they tried to ruin you. The deep psychology of the attacker in this final stage is absolute, catastrophic psychological collapse. They are forced to confront the horrifying reality that they were not just fighting you, they were fighting God, the universe, and the undeniable architecture of destiny itself. Contrast their absolute crushed defeat with your quiet, glorious coronation. They tried to dig a grave for you, but they accidentally dug the exact foundation for your castle. They realize that no matter how hard they try to rewrite the narrative, the truth of your anointing simply cannot be hidden or suppressed. It is metaphorically identical to a group of foolish people running outside at dawn, aggressively throwing black blankets at the sky, screaming and squeezing their eyes shut in a desperate, frantic attempt to block the sunrise. No matter how much they thrash, no matter how loudly they protest, the dawn is inevitable. The sun rises, the light breaks through the darkness, and their tiny, pathetic blankets are instantly rendered completely useless by the sheer magnificent heat of the morning. To watch them finally surrender to your success is the ultimate victory. They have to sit quietly in the shadows and watch you receive the exact blessings they maliciously tried to steal from you. They see the crown, but not the heavy, invisible cross you had to carry to earn it. They see the divine favor, but not the agonizing spiritual purification that qualified you to receive it. You turned their disgusting attack into the greatest source of your power, and their absolute worst nightmare has officially become your breathtaking, everyday reality. When you zoom out and look at the vast, undeniable architecture of all of this, one profound truth becomes entirely impossible to ignore. The people who launched this disgusting attack against you were never actually fighting your physical actions, your words, or your choices. They were desperately fighting your energy. They were fighting your alignment, your peace, and the terrifying realization that your spirit operates on a frequency they cannot hack, buy, or imitate. They melted down over your success, because your very existence is the ultimate proof that an authentic, deeply grounded life is possible, and it is a life they are too cowardly to pursue. Their venom was never a reflection of your worth. It was an agonizingly detailed autobiography of their own internal misery. The contrast between your resilient truth and their exhausting facade is permanently settled. Chosen ones, you do not need to prove anything to these people. You do not need to perform. You do not need to explain your side of the story. And you absolutely do not need to seek revenge. The universe is already handling the massive spiritual debt they incurred when they tried to destroy you. Your only job right now is to keep growing, keep building, and keep shining the exact authentic light that terrifies the people who prefer to hide in the dark. You have already won. You took their most concentrated poison and effortlessly transformed it into the fuel that launched you into your greatest era. Do not look back at the wreckage they created. Look at the incredible kingdom you are building on top of it. Your life is the absolute ultimate revenge, and they have to watch you live it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button right now, drop a comment with what point hit you hardest today, and share this video with someone who needs the reminder. Stay chosen, stay blessed.